In a startling revelation that is already making headlines across the UK, the Department for Work and Pensions has published its latest deep dive into the state of fraud, error, and mispayment across the benefits system. And the numbers are nothing short of staggering. For the financial year 2024 to 2025, the DWP has confirmed that a colossal £9.5 billion was overpaid in benefits. That's right, £9.5 billion, gone in misallocated payments. It accounts for 3.3% of all benefit spending. Though this is a slight dip from last year's figure of £9.7 billion, it still paints a worrying picture of a benefits system struggling under the weight of administrative complexity, claimant error, and systemic issues. But that's not where the story ends. While overpayments dominate the conversation, underpayments remain a persistent and troubling shadow in the background. £1.2 billion in benefits was underpaid, a figure that hasn't budged from the previous year. That means thousands of people across the UK, many of whom are vulnerable, disabled, or living in poverty, may not be receiving the money they are rightfully entitled to. Now, let's be clear, eligibility for DWP benefits isn't guesswork. It's determined by a series of strict rules including income, health status, living conditions, and more. And yet, year after year, billions are either overpaid or withheld. Why? The answer, according to the DWP itself, is often down to one critical problem: incorrect or missing information. Sometimes, people fail to notify the department of changes in their lives. Maybe they've started a job, moved in with a partner, or seen an improvement in their health condition. Other times, errors happen because claimants didn't understand the rules or made honest mistakes on complicated forms. But in more sinister cases, the overpayments are driven by outright fraud, intentional deception to secure money not rightfully theirs. The DWP has issued a statement saying, and I quote, "Sometimes people tell us the wrong information or do not tell us when their circumstances change. Reporting accurate information and providing evidence may change the amount of benefit people are eligible for, and in some circumstances, they may be eligible for more money. However, we cannot calculate the correct amount unless people tell us accurately about their circumstances." It's a sobering message, one that underscores just how vital accurate reporting is, not only to protect taxpayer money but to ensure that those in real need get the help they deserve. So, how does the DWP distinguish between accidental errors and intentional fraud? The department outlines three distinct categories: fraud, claimant error, and official error. Fraud occurs when a claimant knowingly gives false information or deliberately withholds information in order to receive more benefits than they are entitled to. The DWP says three conditions must be met. First, the person must not meet the conditions for receiving the benefit or receiving it at the current rate. Second, the claimant can reasonably be expected to understand how their actions affect entitlement. And third, the payment is reduced or stopped after review. Then there's claimant error, what the DWP calls unfulfilled eligibility. This refers to cases where a person gives the wrong information or fails to report a change, but there's no proof they intended to deceive. It's still a problem, and still results in overpayments, but the motivation is different. And finally, there's official error, when the DWP, a local authority, or even HMRC makes a mistake that leads to someone getting the wrong amount. Maybe they misread a document, applied the wrong rule, or delayed processing a claim. The key point here is that the claimant is not at fault. Now here's where the figures get even more interesting or alarming, depending on your perspective. Total spending on benefits in the UK for 2024 to 2025 rose to a massive £292.2 billion. That's up from £266.2 billion just a year earlier, a jump of £26 billion, or 9.8%. Why such a sharp increase? The bulk of the rise comes from three main areas: the state pension, which jumped from £123.9 billion to £142 billion, universal credit, up from £51.9 billion to £65.3 billion, and personal independence payment, or PIP, which rose from £21.6 billion to £25.8 billion. Together, these three pillars represent the largest share of the UK's welfare spending. But despite the increases, there's one area where spending has dropped, and sharply. The DWP reports a 100% decrease in the cost of living payments. That's a reduction of £10.2 billion in 1 year. This signals a major shift. With emergency pandemic and inflation-related payments winding down, the government is moving away from blanket support and back to more traditional benefits, and that brings us back to the issue of fraud and error. Because as benefits return to normal, ensuring that money goes only to the right people becomes more important than ever. To tackle these massive losses, the DWP is ramping up its fraud and error investigations across 6 major benefits. These are: Universal Credit, the UK's most widely used benefit for low-income individuals and families. Housing benefit for pension-age individuals, both those automatically eligible through passporting and those assessed independently. Pension credit designed to top up income for pensioners. The state pension itself. Personal independence payment, or PIP, vital for people with disabilities. And finally, disability living allowance for children, which helps families with the costs of caring for a disabled child. These reviews will be focused on what's called unfulfilled eligibility. In simple terms, that means checking if someone really qualifies for the money they are receiving. This involves scrutinizing whether someone has the right health condition, income level, household setup, or living arrangement to meet the legal criteria for each benefit. The DWP is sampling and reviewing cases across these 6 categories throughout the entire 2025-2026 financial year. The results will be published in May 2026. These findings won't just sit on a shelf, they'll directly inform policy, benefit design, and future audits. But make no mistake, this is about more than just catching fraudsters. The DWP says that many people may actually be entitled to more money, but they aren't getting it because the system doesn't have the full picture. That's why officials are urging claimants to come forward and update their records, even if it means reporting a new job, a medical diagnosis, or a change in household size. At the heart of this complex and often polarizing issue is one essential truth: the benefits system must be fair. Fair to those who rely on it. Fair to taxpayers. And fair to those who work within it. But with £9.5 billion in overpayments and £1.2 billion in underpayments in just 1 year, it's clear we still have a long way to go. Critics say the system is too complicated, too understaffed, and too prone to errors. Some disability advocates have raised concerns that increased scrutiny can make it harder for genuine claimants to access the help they need, especially those with fluctuating conditions or mental health struggles. Meanwhile, others argue that the real scandal isn't fraud but the billions in unclaimed support that never reaches those who qualify. According to independent estimates, over £15 billion in benefits goes unclaimed each year, especially among older people, carers, and disabled individuals who may not know they qualify or are too intimidated by the paperwork to apply. So where do we go from here? The DWP says it's committed to tackling both sides of the problem, fraud and error, while also improving customer service and outreach. But it's a delicate balancing act, one that requires constant oversight, political will, and honest communication. In the end, benefits are about people, not spreadsheets. Behind every overpayment or underpayment is a person, a family, a life that could be improved or upended by even a small change in monthly income. As we await the results of next year's review, one thing is clear: the fight to make the UK's welfare system fairer, more accurate, and more humane is far from over. For now, the message from the DWP is simple: if your circumstances have changed, report it. If you're unsure whether you qualify for more support, ask. And if you suspect fraud, speak up. Because in a time of rising